My name is Stanley Lumax. I'm the founder of African Chop House. So really quickly, African Chop House is a celebration of African culture through good food, music, and people. A good friend of mine, Pops Mensa Buntu, introduced me to, and as luck would have it, this opportunity to bring all of you guys together. And I think more than anything, this shows us the power of the continent, right? Like, there's a state of emergency in New York City right now because of this coronavirus, and all of you guys are here. So obviously,
African Diaspora.
I didn't say it, but you guys are here. Thank you. Well, look, the reality is, we have the opportunity. One of the things that we try to do is really make sure that not only your belly is full, not only do you have something to drink, but you also get a little bit of, soul food. And again, we have this honor. I'm going to pass the microphone to my brother Hamish to do a little bit of an introduction. But first and foremost, I just wanted to thank you guys for taking the time on your Sunday to be here.
Thank you for coming. Despite of the coronavirus, nobody got it here, right?
No. It's not for us.
I know, right? Isn't it good that at least for one time we don't have to move so much. Thank you so much for coming, guys. I've been in this country 22 years, and sometimes I even have to ask myself if I'm from here or not. But you know what? It only takes for me to hear an African song or to see African attire and all that, to be reminded that I'm not from here and that I'm African. And so the one thing that I've always found, because coming here, I came here for college, and being an immigrant here, I had to blend in and try to be American, so to speak. And I did that for a few years until I realized that it wasn't me, that I needed to be myself. So the one thing that I've always noticed is, at least 15 years ago, it was how much the Africans that were brought here were so different, or wanted to be, well, at least were different than the Africans from the motherland. And so, there was always this distinction, oh, I'm not from here, oh no, I'm American, and this and that. And today I can proudly say that I've noticed such a big difference. I have African Americans, so to speak, who now are proud to say that they're Africans.
Yes.
I can tell you, I did not hear this 15 years ago. I did not hear this 20 years ago. And so for me, I'm proud to say that I truly believe that the ancestors are calling us back.
Yes.
And so, I always say, I love this quote from African proverb that says, a lie runs across the world halfway before the truth ties its shoes. And I think for a long time, there's been this misconception, to the Africans here, they would tell them that Africans there were a certain way. To the Africans there, we were told that the Africans here were a certain way. All of that to divide us.
Exactly.
But the good thing is social media, the different platforms, work in a certain way that now we get to see the truth for ourselves. We don't need to tune into CNN to see the Somalians starving to think that that's what Africans are. Right? Now we get to see for ourselves. I see African brothers here, sisters telling me, hey, I went to Ghana last year, I went to Senegal. It makes me happy. Right? And so I don't even call them Afro-Americans anymore. I call them Africans. I'm just being honest with you. And a lot of them don't know this, but I tell them, you're just Africans. You're Africans, you just were born here. You were born in an island, that's it. But we're still all Africans. My kids, I don't care whether they're born here or not, they're still Africans.
Absolutely.
Right? So it doesn't change whether it's 30 years removed or whatever it is. And so, now we are facing something else. We are now, witnessing a lot of foreigners go to our land and take whatever they want.
Right.
And I was here, and I'm one of the lucky ones. I do okay, but I've always asked myself, what is it that I can do? Being in real estate, being in this, can I go home and build a building? And is that going to be enough to house everybody? And the truth is, it's not. I cannot do it myself. I cannot do it myself. It doesn't matter how much money I raise to go build developments in Africa. And so it wasn't until I tuned in to YouTube and I saw this lady who spoke like Malcolm X. And I'm serious. Like, when I say that, you guys don't understand. Like, I'm pretty much blunt. I say things the way I say it, right? And I say things the way I say it. I'm not politically correct. I don't know how to do that. But it was so refreshing to hear someone else who had the nerve to say these things on an international stage in front of people unapologetically, and saying that in a way, and I felt like it was me talking through the TV. And I was like, oh my gosh, I want to meet this woman. Yes. Oh my gosh, that is my mom. Right? And so automatically, right away, I did some research, and it's funny, I just put it out there, and someone else told me, oh yeah, I know someone who can introduce you to her. And I'm telling you, when I say this, like, it's crazy how the energy works, because the minute I met her, there were other people there gathering around her. It was almost like she knew me from 10 years ago. And she let all these people, she said, no, I got to talk to him. And she came and embraced me. And from that point on, she told me, you are my son.
Awesome. Love it.
And, it's funny, I went to her house, and I thought I ate a lot. She gave me a plate. She told me to finish it. She gave me another plate. She told me to finish it. She didn't ask me to finish it. She told me to finish it. She gave me another plate, and seriously, I was like, oh my gosh, this lady is going to kill me. But if there's one thing I know about back home, you don't say no to mama. Right? And so that's just to tell you, just an example. I mean, I can't tell you enough about this lady. She means a lot to me, and sitting down with her and hearing her vision on how to change our land resonated with me. And I think it's important that I put this event and with my brother Stanley, because I wanted you guys to hear it for yourselves. Awesome. I think if there's going to be a change in us, it starts with us. Yes. And so it's important to do that, because there's this misconception that the heads of states back home are supposed to do that. And that is the wrong thing to do. Right. It's the wrong approach. These people were put there by some people, and they're not going to change. And so we cannot expect them to do that. We have to take it for ourselves. Yes. Right? So I'm not going to speak too long. I'm going to let you listen from her. But I'm just going to tell you, I love her so much. And I want you guys to be quiet when she talks, and please, film it, record it, and tell your friends about it, because it is very important that we make this work. It's not just for us, it's for everybody else, and it's for our kids. Yes. All right? There you go.
Thank you for braving coronavirus and coming on out anyway. It is our time, absolutely.
Not for us.
And to the women, to the black women in this room,
yes.
I want you to, happy Women's Day. But in addition, I want you to look to the men next to you and say, without me, you wouldn't be here. In fact, if the truth be told, without the black woman, there wouldn't be any other races. there wouldn't be any other life as we know life, and that is fact. The first human being was given birth to by a black woman. Take it home. And that is the truth we are not always taught. So as we celebrate Women's Day, black women get on the tallest mountain and proclaim to the world who you are. An amazing creator of humanity. And that the DNA that you have given to the world so far, it is a DNA of originality.
That's right.
And you own it. Happy Women's Day. My name is Arikana Chiombori Quao, born in Zimbabwe, claiming Ghana to be home. As you know, as women, you meet a boy and you lose your head. I lost mine completely. I'm a proud African. Was called out of my peaceful, quiet life in Tennessee to become an ambassador out of nowhere. And I remember thinking, who in their right mind would ask a medical doctor of, if you include my training, medical doctor of 30 years, to go and become an ambassador. But the chairman at that time was also a pediatrician in her prior life. And she said, you know, my sister, actually I think doctors make better diplomats. Because in our exam rooms every day, we're practicing diplomacy. You see, picture this woman who weighs 400 pounds. And you walk into the exam room and she looks at you and she said, Doc, am I fat? And you got to figure out how to tell her, no, she's not fat, but actually she's fat without offending her. When a woman comes in with chest pain and headache that you know very well it's nothing organic because you've checked her for everything else, but she'll never tell you that it is the husband at home. And you got to figure out how to talk to her and somehow go to her home without physically going there, so you can begin to bring that conversation that is needed, that husband is your chest pain. That your husband is the headache. And we need to go home and deal with that. So we play diplomacy every day in the exam rooms. Because sometimes you find it very strange that patients are coming to you for help, but they don't always tell you the truth. But yet you have a responsibility to take care of them. You gotta figure out a way of getting them to finally tell you the truth. And sometimes it's not easy. So she said, you see, my sister, I'm a medical doctor just like you. And look at where I am now. She was the foreign minister for South Africa prior to becoming the chairman of the African Union. And she said she felt that she was drawing from her experience as a doctor in her diplomatic world. But more importantly, she felt that this time, the office in Washington needed to be occupied by an African diaspora. Why? Because it was time for the African diaspora.
That's right.
Africa has everything Africa needs. The only ingredient that is missing for Africa to take a rightful place on the world stage are the children of Africa in the diaspora.
Yes.
Africa today does not have the capacity Africa needs to build the Africa we want. So we sit here from 10,000 miles away, we complain about the heads of states giving all the contract to the Chinese and the Europeans. What are they supposed to do? There's not a single African country today that has the capacity to build a railway line. There's not a single African country today that has the capacity to build an airport. The capacity is in the diaspora. So until you stand up and take your place, until you stand up and be counted, you need to shut up, stop complaining.
Only a black woman.
Because in this country, in particular, in this country, when you ask for the voices of the Chinese diaspora loud and clear, the voices of the Mexican diaspora, the Indian diaspora, the Irish Americans, the Jews, the Italian Americans, the German Americans, loud and clear. But when you ask for the voices of the African diaspora, you might as well go to the graveyard, because we're missing in action. We're too busy telling each other, oh, I'm African American, right. I'm different from you continental Africans, oh, I'm from the Caribbean, I'm different.
That's right.
How are you different? If I take these two brothers right now crossing the street, what do people say they're looking at? They're looking at two black men.
That's right.
I take these two brothers to the street of Accra. What do people say they're looking at? They see two Africans.
That's right.
So until we take pages from the other diaspora races in this country and realize that our strength is in our unity.
That's right.
That the divisions that exist within us were part of a program, part of a strategy that was implemented hundreds of years ago.
That's right.
To see to it that black people, no matter where you find us, we are forever defeated and dominated. They started with slavery 400 years ago. And in Africa, after they had been in Africa, and they ended up ready to fight each other over how they were randomly and haphazardly stealing and looting from the Africans, they were getting ready to have a European war on the African soil. So the only reason they came together during the Berlin Conference was to organize themselves and prevent a European war in the African soil, one, and secondly, to organize themselves so they can effectively loot from the Africans, and thirdly, to organize themselves so they can see to it that Africa and her children, no matter where you find them, are forever defeated and dominated. May I underscore that? Berlin Conference sealed the plan, the strategy, to see to it that Africa and her children, no matter where you see them, they are forever defeated and dominated. Fast forward 135 years later, that strategy remains alive and well. And for those who choose to say, but Ambassador, we can't keep talking about the Berlin Conference, it's such an old thing, it's history. I would like to ask them, how does Lesotho, 1.4 million people, go to the world stage and negotiate with the United States? How does Djibouti go to the world stage and negotiate with the European Union? How does Benin go to the world stage and negotiate with India? Africans are defeated before the game even begins. It's like taking my little daughter over here and throwing her in the same boxing ring with Muhammad Ali. And when she collapses just by thinking of going to fight Muhammad Ali, the world says, what's wrong with you? Why can't you fight him? There's no parity there. Togo should be negotiating with Delaware. Texas should be negotiating with Nigeria. There is parity there. Beyond that, there is no parity, and yet nobody is talking about it. How do you take a wannabe boxer and tell them they're equal to the heavyweight boxer, and they go on into the world and succeed? And we black people, right in the middle of all these injustices, we can't seem to reason, see the facts for what they are, and be individual thinkers and say collectively there's something wrong with this picture. That until these basic wrongs are corrected, Africa is on a losing lane. And Africa is always going to be a loser, no matter how you place us.
Gotta change that.
The strategy that has been put in place to keep Africa where Africa is, starting with independence from the late 50s and early 60s. They gave us political independence, but they kept the economic independence. Today, the majority of the companies in Africa today, they are all owned by companies from the former colonizers. If the country was colonized by the French, the majority of the businesses are run by the French. If the country was colonized by the British, the majority of the companies are from Britain. If they were colonized by Belgium, and you say to yourself, what power do these presidents have when they have no control of their economy? If they don't behave the way the outsiders want them to behave, companies start shutting down. Before you know it, thousands of people are unemployed. And who do they blame? The president. France took it to another level. Some of you are aware of the Pact for the Continuation of Colonization. And I'll just highlight 3 items for those of you who are not familiar with it. As they were giving the African countries independence, on one hand, you're becoming independent. But on the other hand, you gotta sign this deplorable document agreeing to continue to be colonized. You thought they could have given it another name. The Pact for the Continuation of Colonization. If you don't sign this document, there are going to be consequences in your country. When 2 countries said, well, we dare you, France, we are not signing it. Guinea and Mali. History tells us they went into those 2 countries, took everything they thought they had brought. Mugabe says they even took the last teaspoon and share. They poured concrete into the sewage pipes and completely devastated the 2 economies. The then newly elected president of Ghana, Kwame Nkrumah, in his effort to rescue these 2 economies, created the first ever non-union of any African states, Ghana, Guinea, and Mali. What was so deplorable about the Pact for the Continuation of Colonization? 1, the Pact said, you monkeys do not know how to manage your money. You shall deposit 85% of your bank deposits with France under the control of the French Minister of Finance. France will take all your deposits collectively and invest them in the French stock market. You may or may not know of the returns. It didn't matter anyway, because once you make the deposit, it's gone. It was never going to coming back. There was no plan to ever repatriate those funds. Should you want to access some of that money, because you were only left with 15% of your reserves to run your country, you can only access up to 20% of your deposits from last year.
Crazy.
But that's after you have submitted your country's statement, financial report. And if approved, you get to have those funds as a loan at commercial interest rate. Your own money. Your own money.
Wow.
They also say your military can only be trained by France. That you can only purchase military equipment from France. That France will have military presence in your country and can invade your country without notice if they feel that French interests are being violated. What constitutes a violation if a president simply says, you know what, I have seen the light and my people need the money. I can no longer deposit our reserves with France. That called for a coup in that country and the assassination of a president. 22 African heads of states have been killed because of that.
Wow. Wow.
They also say, all your natural resources, discovered and yet to be discovered. Your oil, discovered and yet to be discovered. French companies have the first right of refusal. Fast forward, 2020. The Pact for the Continuation of Colonization remains in effect. And the African leaders are depositing their reserves with France. Every government, former colony of France, there is a French desk in the president's office. There is a French desk in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. There is a French desk at the central bank. I often say, if any of you were to wake up one morning and you're president of one of these countries, and your chief of staff comes to you and reads to you the first day in office, the do's and don'ts as stipulated by the Pact for the Continuation of Colonization. You've given up your finances. You've given up your natural resources. You've given up your military. What power do you have?
None.
What power do you have? As if it wasn't bad enough that they kept the economic liberation from us. After the countries got their independence, they proceeded to implement schemes that would keep African countries chasing their tails. The same multinationals that stayed after independence, they created their own network of tax havens. They don't pay a single penny. They're taking billions out of Africa every year. No penny taken out. And if a president tried to say, but there's something wrong with this picture, before you know it, the instability in that country. They've been involved in illegal mining. You fly low over the Congo, you're going to see tarmacs in the middle of the jungle going nowhere. You will see 747s flying into the DR's Congo and picking up minerals and flying right out of Africa. They're involved in illegal logging, illegal fishing, illegal trade in wildlife and plants. They're taking billions. Every which way you look, they have set Africa for nothing but defeat. And if any of those leaders try to flex their muscles about all these illegal activities going on, you find yourself in serious trouble. 2020, this is still going on. Prior to independence, when they were settlers and then colonizers, they committed some serious atrocities. For those African Americans who dare to say, but our suffering was worse than the ones who stayed on the continent, let me tell you, they did not leave a bed of roses when they left. Let me remind you of what they did to the Herero people of Namibia. Ordered complete annihilation of a total 3 tribes, wiped them off, shoot to kill. And when they retreated into the desert, they poisoned all the water holes. So when they thought they were drinking water because they were in the desert, they died. They killed over 75% of the Namibians. Let me remind you of what they did to the Kikuyu people in Kenya. Forced them into concentration camps, tortured them, chopped them, body parts, until they bled to death. Raped their women. Serious atrocities. Over 10 million Kenyans were killed by the British. Namibia were the Germans. Let's go to the Congo. Leopold never stepped foot in the Congo, but was responsible for the complete annihilation of over 75% of the Congolese people. Simply because he wanted rubber. And the forest in the Congo was rich in rubber. So if a man went into the fields, into the forest, and did not bring enough rubber, Leopold had ordered that first you chop off the hands of the children. And if his performance does not improve, you go after the wife. First you rape her in front of him. And if his performance does not improve even further, then they will chop the wife up into pieces. And they will force you to roast her and eat her.
Kill her blood.
You want to talk about suffering? You want to talk about devils? And then they will take those they have murdered on sticks as trophies. They take their heads as trophies back to Europe. To this day, African countries are having to take these former colonizers to court just to claim the remains of our ancestors who they murdered. This day, just last month, Zimbabwe got permission to finally get the skulls of our ancestors who were killed by the British. Robert Mugabe started requesting these remains since 1980. Who does this? Who are these people? Who are these people? Who the hell do they think they are? To just blatantly say, yes, we committed murder, and we took the skulls as trophies, and we're not giving you back those skulls, because we're going to keep them for research. Because some were wanting to prove that black people were not human. How do they go to sleep at night? They did the same thing with our artifacts. They have hundreds of thousands of African artifacts that were stolen. They say we took, we say they stole. And they openly display them, including openly display the skulls of dead Africans who they murdered. And they see nothing wrong with that picture. But what gets me even more is that we black people say nothing about it. But instead, 100% vicious anger over the leaders who are totally powerless. You see, Leopold, when he sent the missionaries to Africa, he said, teach them how to read, but not to reason.
One more time.
Teach them how to read and not to reason. That is why we are across the globe, no matter where you see us, we're stuck on stupid because we refuse to reason.
Talk about it.
The facts are right there in front of us, and we refuse to reason. We are spoon-fed information like children, educated as we are, intelligent as we are. We're only intelligent to serve them and not us.
Talk about it.
When are we going to wake up? When are we going to come together and say, enough is enough? How long could any African country last with the skull of an Englishman? How long will any African country last with the skull of a Frenchman? Not even a day. And not only will they come in and take out that skull, they will kill thousands of Africans in the process. So you black men, where are you?
Auntie, I'm here, Auntie.
Where have you been?
Jeez.
Why have you let us down as your mothers? As your sisters? As your daughters? Where is your backbone? I'm only going to repeat what Minister Farrakhan said.
Go ahead. Yes. One.
I was attending Saviour's Day, and he was talking about the black men. And that we needed to have balls so big that you got to carry them with a wheelbarrow.
Talk about it.
I'm just quoting you. Where the hell are your balls? What is being done to us black people in Africa is a reason for all out war. But they get away with it because it's Africa. They can do whatever they want to us. The question I have for you young people, how long? How long? I'm a grandmother. She's 2 years old, my daughter, my granddaughter. 20 years from now, she shall look at me and say, grandmother, there were problems in Africa. I am reading them in the history books. What did you do, grandmother? Jeez. I want to be able to look at my granddaughter and say, granddaughter, these were the issues. And this is what I did. And this is where I left off. And this is where you need to pick up.
That's right.
Daughter, continue. The fight is yours.
We ready?
To win or lose. But for you to fight, you have to understand the issues. You have to understand how we got here. You got to understand that as black people, we are under siege.
That's right.
And our strength is in our unity.
Yes, sir.
That we can no longer continue to listen to the lies.
That's right.
Who told you that the angels were white?
They did. They did.
Who told you that the devil was black?
They did.
But let me ask you the third question. Who has seen the devil and who has seen the angels? Who gave them the right to define that? And we just took it. You are black people, you represent the devil, we just take it. Sometimes I tell my white friends that I wish I could be a fly on the wall when they're talking about how dumb black people are. A Chinaman would put a shop in a black neighborhood,
Yes.
and we all go right past the black man's shop to patronize the Chinaman. And you know very well, no Chinese community would allow you to put a business in their neighborhood. You can try it, but they'll never patronize you. Why do we feel the need to patronize them and not us?
Give too freely.
We're suffering from the legacy of slavery and the legacy of colonization. The problem is we don't even realize that we're suffering from this affliction. I often say, we're not even in a doctor's office waiting to be seen. We're not in the hospital in the general ward. We are in the intensive care. While we may have lost the shackles of the ankles and the wrist, the shackles of the mind remain alive and well. The question then becomes, where does the healing begin? This is why when I went to Washington, and after traveling and listening to the diaspora, and the question that really stuck to my mind every time I finish speaking, but Ambassador, the African leaders are corrupt. I'm not saying we don't have a problem with corruption in Africa, don't get me wrong. I'm simply saying let's put things in perspective. Let's understand what is going on. We have gazillion problems. We can be stupid and try to tackle all of them at the same time, or we could say, what are our problems? Let's prioritize. Let's come up with a plan and execute. Yes. So the question I would ask diaspora is, we got two thieves. One is cutting 50 billion, which is what the watchdogs on corruption say, 50 billion gets out of Africa from corruption. That's not good. We got to go after that money. But at the same time, 500 billion is going out of Africa from France. Where is your outrage with France? It's because we didn't know. It is just that simple. We didn't know. On a scale of 1 to 10, corruption in Africa, roughly, I would put it at a 6, 1 being the worst. It's imperative that we address the issues that are the root cause of Africa's problems. Lack of access to education, lack of access to good health care, lack of access to good jobs, poor infrastructure. Those are all the leaves and flowers and fruits and branches of a tree. They come from one season to the other and we keep complaining. But until you address the issues of the root, you will always be complainers. You must understand the root causes of Africa's problem. One, the Berlin Conference. Because the Berlin Conference remains alive and well. How is the Berlin Conference alive? Have you ever wondered why is it that you want to go from one part of Africa to the other, you gotta go through Europe and then come back down? Picture yourself. You want to go to Africa and visit 4 countries. You send your passport to Washington. Might take 3-4 weeks to come back. That's Nigeria. Then you get your passport back, then you send it back to Washington. This time to the embassy of Kenya. And sometimes the embassies are right next door to each other. 3-4 weeks, your passport comes back. Then you send your passport back to Botswana. Another 3-4 weeks, you get your passport back. Then you send it back to South Africa. By the time your passport comes back from South African embassy, your Nigerian visa is expired. And then you say to yourself, what the heck, I'm not going to Africa, I'm going to Europe. It's all the Berlin Conference. Do you know how difficult it is for a businessman in Malawi to trade with his Malawi kwacha, with a businessman in Nigeria with his Nigerian naira? Mission impossible. Thanks to the Berlin Conference. But we don't talk about these issues. We don't relate that these issues are a direct result of the Berlin Conference. Have you ever pictured yourself driving from Zambia? You're speaking English. Right next door, Angola. You're speaking Portuguese. Right next door, DRC. You're speaking French. Go a little west, Equatorial Guinea. You're speaking Spanish. Go a little bit north. You're in southern Cameroon. You're speaking English. Same country. Go up north. You're in northern Cameroon. You're speaking French. A little further north, you're in Nigeria. You're speaking English. These were once one people. Intentionally divided. Give it a generation or two, they will no longer know each other. Divide and conquer remains alive and well. And you and I are victims of that. So when you find yourself saying, I'm an African American, I'm different from the continental Africans, there goes the disease.
That's right.
When you find yourself saying, I even found another division that was new to me. The first generation children of continental Africans, they now have their own club. Did you guys know that? In the universities.
Tell me, Auntie.
Yes. I was at Ohio University. There's the African Union, African Student Association, which is made up of continental Africans. There's another association of first-generation Africans, children of first-generation Africans. There's another association of African Americans. There's another association of Caribbean Americans, Caribbean black people.
All African.
All African.
Yeah.
And they don't see anything wrong with that picture. Are you with me?
Yes.
My sons and daughters.
Yes.
And all we gotta do is wake up from the slumber. We have been put to sleep for generations. We must understand that we're part of somebody else's strategy to train you, all the intelligent brains, so you can serve the master. When you should be the master of your own land in Africa. 2018, the heads of states accomplished what our Pan-African fathers wanted to accomplish back in 1963 when they met during the formation of the Organization of African Unity.
True.
When they met in 1963, they were trying to undo the damage done by the Berlin Conference, but they failed. Because they were infiltrated by NATO allies. Year in, year out, the issue of an Africa speaking with one voice was raised, and year in and year out, they failed to reach a consensus until 2018. They finally agreed on a decision which they are calling the African Continental Free Trade Area. This decision is going to see an Africa beginning July this year, if all goes well, that is entering the world market as one Africa, one continent, speaking with one voice.
Yes.
Hallelujah.
Yes.
It all sounds wonderful, doesn't it? But the question is, the missing ingredient for us to build the Africa we want is still not on the continent. If all the continental Africans, African American doctors were to go home to Africa today, we're only going to meet about 30% of the need. So no amount of money put into Africa is going to give us the desired results. Because why? Right here in New York City, there are more Ghanaian doctors in New York City than the country of Ghana. Yes, that's our reality. There are more Nigerian doctors in Los Angeles than in the entire country of Nigeria.
Come on.
So how then do we expect somehow, magically, Africa to build itself unless foreigners come in? Because you have chosen to vacate that place that has your name. Because you have chosen to fight with your brother and sister and completely forget what matters. You see, what's happening is, these people are sitting on a table in your house, eating your food, and you're under the table, waiting for them to drop some crumbs. And while you are under the table waiting for the crumbs, they have put a system in place to remind you that your brother has taken the larger chunk, beat him up. That your sister has stolen the larger chunk, beat her up. So we are constantly fighting over which brother has taken the chunk. So that way we never have to talk about what is on the table. What is needed for all of us to come together and remind these people and rise up and tell them that you are in my house and that you need to get out.
That's right.
But first you must realize you're under the table. Quite often we don't even realize we're under the table. What saddens me is I'm surrounded by the most intelligent, hardworking people I know. I call us the most beautiful, sophisticated, highly adaptable, and totally indestructible. And yet we can't seem to come together for our sheer survival. We're surrounded by other races doing the same. But somehow, we can't seem to say, my sister, I may not like you, and we will fight when we see each other, but when it comes to what matters about me and you and our continent and our children and grandchildren, we are going to forget those differences.
Come on.
We will come together
Come on.
to address those issues. And then when we go back to our neighborhood, and I'm going to start fighting with you again.
That's right.
Yes, family.
Look at the Jews. They don't all get along. But when it comes to Israel, they stick together like super glue.
Right.
Yeah.
Look at the Indians.
Yeah.
They may not get along as individuals,
Yeah.
but when it comes to India, they stick together like super glue. Look at the Chinese. Why can't we do that? Well, here's where we are now, my sons and daughters. Since leaving the office, realizing that there is not a one place that you can go for everything African. Realizing that there isn't one place that we can come together as African diaspora. And by the way, let me make sure I emphasize. African diaspora are all people of African descent living outside Africa.
That's right.
So if you're born in the United States, you're an African
That's right.
and an African diaspora.
That's right.
You're born in the Caribbean, you're an African.
That's right.
You're born in South America and you're black, you're an African.
That's right.
I am an African who happens to be born in a place called Zimbabwe.
That's it.
You may be an African born in a place called Atlanta.
That's right.
You may be an African born in a place called Jamaica.
Come on.
When it's all said and done, we are all proud Africans. I've registered an entity called African Diaspora Development Institute. This is the institute that we are all going to come together
Come on.
and make decisions about how we are going to go home as a united front and take what is rightfully ours. Because of the African Continental Free Trade Area, the boundaries that have kept us from trading with each other are going to be melted. The Chinese who are already in Africa are getting ready to quadruple their presence. The Europeans who are already in Africa are getting ready to quadruple their presence and take what belongs to you. The African heads of state are saying these people are coming to Africa poor and going back to their countries rich. They said, Ambassador, what is it that the diaspora don't understand? We want them to come to Africa, invest their money in Africa, go back to Europe, go back to the Caribbean, go back to the US, play golf like they do, while your money is working for you in Africa.
Come on.
Do you have a problem with that picture?
No.
$1,000 from 1 million African diaspora is $1 billion. Can we not do that?
Yes.
Have a fund that can invest in these massive continental projects that are getting ready to be rolled out? The Cape to Cairo highway is going to be built. The question is, by who?
Excuse me.
The Inga Dam is going to be built. The question is, by who? You become a shareholder in the Inga Dam, you are talking generational wealth. You become a shareholder in the high-speed rail from Cape Town to Cairo, you are talking generational wealth.
Back.
So we are in the process of registering a diaspora fund. When it's registered, I hope all of you can commit to investing, not donation,
Take my money.
a minimum of $1,000.
Take it, baby.
Just become a shareholder. And then a team of you would be responsible of deciding what projects do we want to invest in.
Come on.
There we go.
Through ADDI, I'm hoping to have 1 million people signed before the end of the year.
Yes.
With that number, I am going to be going to the heads of states and say, now, you have been asking for the diaspora. Your excuse has been, we don't know how to find the diaspora. That's why we can't give them the contracts. Well, guess what? Here they are.
Here we are.
Now tell me why
That's it.
the next airport in Africa is going to be built by a Chinaman.
That's right.
Tell me why the next port in Africa is going to be built by a Chinaman. Tell me why Africa is not being built by the Africans. Because now we have stood up and we have been counted.
Ready.
We're fired up and ready to go.
That's right.
Let's go.
Now, if they do not give us those opportunities, after we have stood up and done our part and raised our money and invested in our fund, now you will see another Ambassador Quao.
There you go.
There is another. There's no reason why we cannot be on the driver's seat of Africa's development agenda. You see, you don't see a black man driving African continental, the Chinese development agenda. You don't find a black man driving the Mexican development agenda, the Indian development agenda, the European development agenda. Why would you see a non-black person, non-African, driving the African development agenda? Wouldn't that be the most shameful thing to happen? If a black man and a black woman cannot be in charge in Africa, where else are they going to be in charge? So we're going to come together and we're going to let the heads of states know that we are coming home and we will be driving the African development agenda. That the Africa we want is going to be built by us.
Yes.
Plain and simple.
Yes.
And that the divisions that have kept us from coming together no more. We're saying enough is enough. So everybody's going to get a flyer. Yes. I hope all of you can go to ouraddi.com. Ouraddi.com. Somebody took addi.com, so I couldn't have it. So ouraddi.com. I want you all to register as a company, as a professional. And then when we are done, we are going. Zambia has already stood up, y'all. The president of Zambia has already stood up. He's going to be sending a team of his own hand-picked people to come and present to those diaspora the opportunities in Zambia. That's going to happen in April. And then between May 17 and 27, he's inviting us to come home to Zambia. We're going to have a youth conference, a women's conference, and a diaspora conference. All you need is a ticket into Zambia. The president says he's going to cover ground transportation and accommodation.
Let's go.
He's standing up. The president is standing up. And we got to do our part. So if you need more information about going to Zambia, please make sure if you sign up on ouraddi.com, we will be keeping you posted on how to register and all the logistics and the program.
Excuse me.
And if you need more information, you can always reach my two sons here. They'll keep you posted. And also to make sure that we're all on the same page, I've also written a book. It's called Africa 101. It's a very simple book that takes us from slavery and highlights everything they've done to us all the way to now, as well as way forward. So please go to africa101.org, africa101.org. You can pre-order your copy. The book should be coming out in about 3 weeks.
Yes, Lord.
No more excuses.
No more excuses.
We have not done the right thing because we didn't know. We have not done the right thing because we did not have an avenue. And I am going to continue to work like a chicken without a head, run all over the region, talking about ADDI and how we must come together. And by the end of 2 years, and I hope I would have reached every black person that needs to hear this message. When I've done that, and you still all don't show up, I will lie in my grave, a very peaceful woman, knowing that I have done my part. And I can look at my Creator and say, my Creator, I did the best I could. The rest is up to them. The struggle continues. And in Portuguese we say, a luta continua.
It's very important that you take this information and that you share it. The problem with us is we don't share information. We take it, we go home, and we get on social media, and we post our pictures again. Again, if you have any questions, please go to ouraddi.com. On Instagram, I'm Amish Africa, HAMISH Africa. Feel free to go to contact me on there. My email is amishganga, HAMISHGANGA @hotmail.com. I am with ADDI. If you have any questions, I'll be able to answer. Please go on there and register. It's very important that you do,